Australia is one of the most important places on Earth for biodiversity. It is one of only 17 megadiverse nations and home to more species than any other developed country in the world. But it also has the distinction of having more extinct species than any other place in the world. And that's a fact I just can't ignore. I want to know what's happening to our amazing wildlife and our environment and exactly what we are doing to prevent this. Australia, commonly referred to as the land down under, is the world's oldest continent. Its landmass consists of over 7.6 million square kilometres of land, surrounded by the world's largest oceans washing in on a truly enormous coastline. Though most of this country is semi-arid or desert, it also includes a diverse range of habitats, from high alpine areas through to gum forests, rainforests and coastal heathlands. This island continent is home to more than 1 million unique species and holds 10% of the world's biodiversity of living organisms, including mammals, reptiles, birds, amphibians, fish, insects and plants. Because of the continent's great age and geographic isolation, many of these species are endemic. That is, they are only found in Australia. The indigenous people of this continent were accustomed to the unique flora and fauna, living off bush delicacies and captured prey. But when white explorers arrived, they were bamboozled by what they found. They were mesmerised by the landscape and its plants and animals, but especially intrigued by the strange monotremes. Australia is one of 2 countries that still has all 3 major mammal groups: the pouched marsupials, the belly-button placentals, and the 3 extraordinary monotremes. Half of Australia's mammal species are marsupials, and here, marsupials are more diverse than any other place on Earth. The most familiar are the iconic kangaroos and wallabies, a group called macropods or longfeet. In fact, these guys are so famous, they're even on our currency, or actually they're on our Australian emblem. You've got the emu and the kangaroo, so they're very much local to this country. See ya. While the population of grey kangaroos are stable, many of their relatives are not so lucky. The arrival of Europeans to this continent has coincided with one of the worst extinction rates of mammals in the world. Horrified by our track record of recent extinctions, I want to go in search of answers and to understand the true plight of our wildlife. I would love to hold on to some hope that something can be done. I start my journey in far north Queensland to meet some unique Aussie marsupials and learn of the battles they face. I'm at the stunning Granite Gorge, just over an hour drive from Cairns. And this is where we start our Meet the Wildlife tour. On this tour, we're going to meet some of Australia's most interesting characters, our wonderful Aussie wildlife. This Granite Gorge has been shaped by volcanic activity, which has thrust huge boulders up to form a perfect home for these little critters. So what kind of wallabies have we got here?
Okay, we have the Mareeba rock wallabies, which are completely endemic to this area, which is known as Granite Gorge. These little critters were in danger of being completely extinct. I think at one stage there was only about 3, maybe 5 left entirely. It's through the intervention of tourism and the hand feeding that you can see that we're doing now that they've flourished, and there's actually a couple of thousand of them around here now. These guys have evolved from here, from a paddy melon, which is actually a rainforest wallaby. There's a few different rock wallabies throughout Australia. They're very friendly and very tame, as you can see, but at the end of the day, they still are 100% wild animals. To my way of knowing, there's about 56 species of kangaroo in Australia.
Does that include wallabies?
Yes, and at the end of the day, kangaroos, wallabies, wallaroos, potoroos, whatever you call them, probably be better off using their scientific name, which is a macropod, because if you use the name macropod, then they all fall into the same category.
My next encounter had me meeting the only remaining carnivorous marsupial on mainland Australia, the beautiful quoll. Captain Cook first captured quolls along the eastern coast in 1770. But today, their depleted numbers are restricted to small pockets of territory. There are 4 species of quolls. This is the southern quoll. But his cousin who lives in far north Queensland is critically endangered, primarily because of land clearing and the introduction of cats and foxes. Since 1788, we have lost 30 mammal species, equaling some 10% of our mammal population. Over 20% of the remaining populations are endangered, with some other species threatened. No other nation has had such a high rate of loss of land mammals over this time, since first European settlement, according to the scientist at Charles Darwin University in Australia. This loss of species is far more serious than we first had thought. Australia's extinction rates are not just restricted to mammals. According to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, there are 427 threatened species, of which some 96 are critically endangered. That means my homeland has the greatest number of declining animal populations on Earth. Another iconic species battling for survival is the southern cassowary. I headed to Mission Beach to find out more. So this is like a cassowary track?
It is a cassowary track, yeah.
So they've made a little path for us.
They have. I mean, it's pretty easier for them to go down than what it is for us.
As we made our way into the jungle, the kids were on high alert. The thought of catching a glimpse of a cassowary was exciting, and in no time we saw one. The cassowaries are often quite shy, and it soon retreated into the forest. So this bush or rainforest that you have around here in Mission Beach is one of the very few pockets of rainforest that these southern cassowaries have left.
The coastal lowland rainforest is virtually cleared. 80% of it is cleared, but at Mission Beach it's particularly cleared and fragmented because of housing development and farming. And what we see here is the junction of 2 creeks, and it's not even a reserve. This is privately owned. So there's land that's just through here. You can see those orange tape on the trees. That's where the real estate people have put them there to show that this is the access to that block of land. So where you saw that cassowary and this essential kind of Black Creek junction, that's where they plan to put a roadway, which is, again, fragmenting, clearing land and their sanctuary.
Cassowaries are vitally important for the rainforest environment. Why is that?
Because they disperse the really large seeds and they can take them so far away from the source. And particularly in the high biodiversity areas like Mission Beach, for instance, where you've got so many different ecosystems that they can be eating fruit in critically endangered littoral rainforest, for instance, near the beach, and they can be taking it away and depositing it somewhere which, you know, like is a different ecosystem altogether, and then taking it from there to somewhere else. I mean, they just keep moving around the landscape.
As I walked around knowing cassowaries were close by, I felt ecstatic. But at the same time, my heart was hurting that these cassowaries' peaceful forest life is threatened. For unless things change, we could possibly lose these beautiful birds. People who have the passion to lend a helping hand are environmental heroes in our world. Peter, tell me exactly what C4 is.
C4 is the local conservation organisation for Mission Beach. It was set up originally because people were concerned very much about cassowary conservation in this whole area, and then there were other people who were concerned about the coastal development. Two groups of people came together, and so we made C4, which is a community for coastal and cassowary conservation. Then we involve ourselves always in doing rehabilitation work of environment, education. You see, we've got a display centre where we like people to come in and see what the area, why Mission Beach is special, why the cassowaries are special.
But while we educate our children about these amazing animals, it is their generation that will see many of these species disappear.
People who have lots of money come in, buy these big blocks of land, they just simply clear them from one boundary to the next, maybe leave a little bit of vegetation along the creeks. We find that they often didn't have the money to actually make that development go ahead. What have we got left? We've got a big block of land with nothing on it. Oh, now we've got grass.
So do you think we'll have lost a bit of Mission Beach if we let the cassowaries go?
Oh, you lost it. You lose a major part of Mission Beach. But it's not just Mission Beach. You realise, of course, that this area from Innisfail to Cardwell, it's the cassowary coast. They don't call it the cassowary coast for no reason.
With as few as 70 adult cassowaries left in Mission Beach, every death is a major blow to the gene pool. Over 4 cassowaries die on the roads of Mission Beach every year, and 40% of cassowary habitat at Mission Beach is not protected, most of it falling on private land. So Ingrid, this is an amazing little spot that you live in. It's beautiful, there's so much bush, but you also have cassowaries that you live amongst.
Yeah, I'm very privileged. I live adjoining Licuala State Forest, and this forest is home to the cassowary, the endangered cassowary. I've got 3 resident birds that live here. I've got the matriarchal female, her name's Avalon, and I've got Ishmael, he's the male bird.